Hello, 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 amazing people. Hello. I'm so excited to be here with you once again. And if you haven't checked out chapter 4 of the Cashflow Quadrant, I highly encourage you to do so. We went over a couple things. Actually, he shared the 5 main secrets that you need to quote. If your organization, it could be your current business, or it could be the company that you're currently working with, or maybe it's a network marketing company. If the 5 key things that we shared in the last video, if they have those 5 key things, you don't have to worry about the product. It pretty much sells itself through your confidence, through the development that you've put in, through the ability of your confidence just going through the roof. You're able to sell it. A true success story is when your commitment of time and hard work in a short amount of time results in significant long-term passive income. I absolutely love that. I feel like every single chapter, whenever we read here, there's one specific thing that he says that really hooks me, and that was definitely that line, because I'm all in on creating something once and having it work multiple times over and over again with multiple different people. So I'm excited to hear what you think about that. And if you are part of a network marketing company, I encourage you to put it in the comments below. If you haven't already liked or even subscribed or hit that bell, do that now, because it does help this channel to actually go wider and expand to more people. We're on a mission here to empower the lives of 4 billion souls in the development of their mind, body, and soul. Because we understand that when those 3 elements are developed and they're truly nourished, your personal and financial freedom happen like this. And that's what we're really focused on. The Billionaire Inner Circle, if you haven't checked it out, do so in the description below. It's an amazing inner circle where we're actually diving deeper in the Read With Me sessions. We're reading 22 books this year, 2 per month. And we're diving deeper into these books and unlocking all the secrets that each one has. Plus, there's also Billionaire of the Month, where if you rack up your points, we have an awesome point system. We actually grant you an amazing gift. So if you want to be recognized for your hard work, your efforts, and your commitment to growth, plus you want to earn some passive income, check out the Billionaire Inner Circle. I mean, all you got to do is win when you do. So, shall we? Cashflow Quadrant, we're in chapter 5, the 5 levels of investors. This is gonna be a good one. I have a good feeling about this one. All right, he starts off. Investing is the key to financial freedom. My poor dad often said, investing is risky. My rich dad often said, being financially uneducated is risky. Today, most people know they should invest. The problem is that most people, like my poor dad, believe investing is risky. And investing is risky if you lack financial education, experience, and the guidance. Learning to invest is important because investing is the key to financial freedom. 5 things happen to people who do not, I repeat, who do not invest or who invest poorly. These are the 5 things that happen if you do not invest. 1, they will be working hard for the rest of their life. 2, They worry about money all of their life. 3, they depend on others, such as family, a company pension, or the government to take care of them. And then 4, boundaries. The boundaries of their lives are defined by money. Strong line. And then lastly, number 5, they will not know what true freedom is. Ooh. Saving the best for last. They will not know what true freedom is. That is, if you do not invest or if you invest poorly. Rich Dad often said, "You will never know true freedom until you achieve financial freedom." By this, he meant that learning to invest is more important than learning a profession. He said, when you learn a profession, let's say to be a doctor, you learn how to work for money. Learning to invest is learning how to have money work for you. The moment you have money work for you, you have your ticket to freedom. He also said, the more money you have working for you, the less you pay in taxes. That's if you are a true investor. Learning to invest. My rich dad began preparing me for the I quadrant at the age of 9, using the game of Monopoly as a teaching tool. Over and over again, he would say, one of the biggest and greatest formulas for wealth is found in the game of Monopoly. Always remember the formula: 4 green houses and 1 red hotel. The game of Monopoly is a game of cash flow. For example, if you had 1 greenhouse on a property you owned and you received $10, that was $10 a month in cash flow. 2 houses, 20, 3 houses, 30, and that red hotel is 50. More greenhouses and more red hotels mean more cash flow, less work, less taxes, and more freedom. A simple game, but a very important lesson. Rich Dad played Monopoly in real life. He would often take his son and me to visit his greenhouses that would one day become a big red hotel right on Waikiki Beach. As I grew up and watched my rich dad play the game of Monopoly in real life, I learned many valuable lessons about investing. Some of those are: 1, investing is not risky. 2, investing is fun. 3, investing can make you very, very rich. And then, more importantly, number 4, investing can set you free from the struggle of earning a living and worrying about money. In other words, if you were smart, you could build a pipeline of cash flow for life. A pipeline that could produce cash in good times and bad, in market booms and when the market crashes. Your cash flow would increase automatically with inflation and at the same time allow you to pay less in taxes. I'm not saying real estate is the only way to invest. I use the game of Monopoly simply as an example of how the rich get richer. A person can earn income from stocks via dividends, from bonds via interest, from oil, books, and patents via royalties. In other words, there are many ways to become financially free. By the way, if you love Monopoly, put it in the comments. It'd be awesome if we can set up a game with everyone and play Monopoly somewhere in the world. Interesting. Put it in the comments. That'd be nice. Financial expert. Actually, experts in quotation mark. Unfortunately, due to the lack of financial education in schools, most people blindly turn their money over to people they believe are financial experts. People such as bankers, financial planners, and stockbrokers. Unfortunately, most of these experts are not really investors in the I quadrant. Most are employees in the E quadrant working for a paycheck, or self-employed financial advisors in the S quadrant working for fees and commissions. Most experts cannot afford to stop working simply because they don't have investments working for them. Warren Buffett said, Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls Royce to get advice from those who take the subway. Whoa, Warren! Warren nailed it with that one. Let me just say that again. Warren's like, y'all, Wall Street is the only place that people ride into with a Rolls Royce, but they get advice from those who take the subway. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think about that one. Let me know what you think about that one, y'all. If people do not have sound financial advice, they cannot tell you if a financial advisor is a salesman or a con man, a fool or a genius. Remember, all the con men are nice people. If they were not nice by telling you what you want to hear, you would not listen to them. There's nothing wrong with being a salesperson. We all have something to sell. Yet Warren Buffett says, never ask an insurance salesman if you need insurance. When it comes to money, there are many people desperate enough to tell you and to sell you anything just to get your money. Interestingly, the vast majority of investors never meet the person taking their money. In most of the Western world, employees simply have their money automatically deducted from their paycheck, the same way the tax department collects taxes. Many workers in America simply allow their employer to deduct their money and put it into their 401k retirement plan, possibly the worst way to invest for retirement. By the way, he mentions 401k plans go by different names in different countries. So in Australia, they're called superannuation plans. In Japan, they are also called 401ks, and in Canada, they are known as RRSPs. I say the 401k may possibly be the worst way to invest for retirement for the following reasons. He has 4 reasons why the 401k plan is literally the worst way to invest. And number 1 is Time magazine is on my side, which means Time magazine has a number of articles over the years questioning the wisdom of putting so many people's retirement at risk. Time has been predicting that millions will not have enough money to retire after a lifetime of turning their money over to strangers. A typical 401k plan takes 80% of the profits. The investor may receive 20% if they are lucky. The investor puts up 100% of the money and takes 100% of the risk. The 401k plan puts up 0% of the money and takes 0% of the risk. The 401k company makes the money, even if you lose. Interesting. Number 2, taxes work against you with a 401k. Long-term capital gains are taxed at a lower rate of around 15%, but the 401k gains are taxed at the ordinary earned income tax around 35%. Can't even say that. The highest of the 3 types of income. And he mentions that the highest types of income are ordinary earned, portfolio income, and then passive. So he's mentioning the highest of the 3 types of income are ordinary, portfolio, and then passive. If you want to take the money out of your 401k early, you'll have to pay an additional 10% penalty tax. That's true. And then number 3, you have no insurance if there is a stock market crash. To drive a car, you must have insurance in case there's a crash. When I invest in real estate, I have insurance if the building catches on fire or if there's any other losses. Yet the 401k investor has no insurance to prevent losses from market crashes. Number 4, the 401k is for people who are planning to be poor when they retire. Oof. That is why financial planners often say, when you retire, you'll be taxed at a lower tax rate. They assume your income will go down in retirement into a lower tax bracket. If, and on the other hand, you are rich when you retire and you have a 401k, you could pay even higher taxes at retirement. Smart investors understand taxes before investing. Indeed. The sad truth about most financial advisors and pension fund managers is that they are not investors. Most are employees in the E quadrant. One reason why so many government pensions and union pensions are in trouble is because those employees are not trained to be investors. Most do not have a real life financial education. To make matters worse, most financial experts advise uneducated investors to invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Why do these financial experts, employees in the E quadrant or salespeople in the S quadrant, masquerade as investors in the I quadrant? Who advised you to do that? It's because they get paid, not by how much money they make for you, but how much money you turn over to them for the long term. The longer your money is parked with them, the more they get paid. The reality is that real investors do not park their money, they move their money. It's a strategy known as the velocity of money. A true investor's money is always moving, acquiring new assets, and then moving on to acquire even more assets. Only amateurs park their money. I'm not saying a 401k plan are bad though. Although I would never have one, for me, they're just way too expensive, too risky, and way too tax inefficient and unfair to the investor. So I am saying there are better ways to invest, but they do require financial education. And then he says, what is the best investment though? Well, the average investor does not know the difference between investing for cash flow and investing for capital gains. Most investors invest for capital gains, hoping and praying the price of their stock or home goes up. As long as you have more cash flowing in than flowing out, your investment is a good investment. Keep in mind that it's not the asset class that makes a person rich or poor. For example, when a person asks, is real estate a good investment? I reply, I don't know. Are you a good investor? Or if they ask, hey, are stocks a good investment? Again, my answer is the same. I don't know. Are you a good investor? My point is that it is never the investment or asset class that is important. Success or failure, wealth or poverty depends solely on how smart the investor is. A smart investor will make millions in the stock market. An amateur will lose millions. Tragically, most people do not think learning to invest is important. This is why most people believe investing is risky and turn their money over to experts, most of whom are not really investors, but they're actually salespeople who make their money whether the investor makes or loses money. 5 different levels of investors. There are 5 types of levels of investors found in the I quadrant. And then he goes into all of them. Okay, we're gonna hit all of them right now. Sit and hold on tight because we're about to get into each one. Okay, level 1, the zero financial intelligence level. Level 1. Sadly, in America, once the richest country in the world, over 50% of the US population is at the bottom of the I quadrant. Simply said, they have nothing to invest. That's over 50% of the US population. There are many people who make a lot of money who fall into this category. They earn a lot and they spend more than what they earn. I have a friend who looks very rich. He has a good job in a real estate. He has a good job as a real estate broker, a beautiful wife, and 3 kids in private school. They live in a beautiful house overlooking the Pacific Ocean in San Diego. He and his wife drive expensive European cars. When his son and daughters were old enough, they drove also the expensive cars. They looked rich, but what they had was bad debt. They looked rich, but were poorer than ever. They were actually more poor than most poor people. Now they are homeless. Dang! That turned it around real quick. When the real estate market crashed, they crashed. They were no longer able to pay the interest on all the debt they had accumulated. When we were younger, this same friend made a lot of money. Unfortunately, it was his low financial intelligence level, 0, that caused him to be a 0 over the long run. In fact, he is so deeply in debt that he is really a sub-zero investor. Dang. Robert is calling him out, calling him a 0, and now he's calling him a sub-zero investor, throwing jokes. Like many people, everything he buys loses value or costs him money. Nothing he buys makes him richer. Dang. Okay, I gotta say something, because Robert's throwing a couple shots at his friend over here. Who do you know that is a sub-zero investor? Do not put it in the chat. Okay, just think about it in your head right now. And if it's you that comes to mind, okay, check out the Billionaire Inner Circle. If it's somebody that you know, invite them to the Billionaire Inner Circle. And then 3, like, there's a moment when you know you're going down. I feel like 0 level investors, again, going back to the E quadrant, how they're motivated by fear, you know, I feel like a 0 level investor is unaware of how to get out of that fear, and they don't know how the next move should be or what the next move should be. And a safe move for them would be to go to an advisor or a financial advisor or whatever, and then they lose anyways because they went to somebody that's not even qualified. The right thing to do is, if he was in the process of building up his financial assets, aka his mind, his education, that's when things would have shifted. And I think he's about to get into it. I haven't read this, but so far, every time I do have a moment like this, it's accurate. So let's get into it. Level 2. We'd love to know your comments, by the way. Put it in the chat. Level 2 are the savers, or, okay. Level 2, the savers are losers. Dang. Robert's not playing around with these names. The savers are losers. This is the level 2 level. Okay. Many people believe it is smart to save money. The problem is that today, money is no longer money. Today, people are saving counterfeit dollars, money that can be created at the speed of light. In 1971, President Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard, and the money became debt. The primary reason why prices have risen since 1971 is simply because the United States now has the power to print money to pay its bills. Today, savers are the biggest losers. Since 1971, the US dollar has lost 95% of its value when compared to gold. It will not take another 40 years to lose its remaining 5%. Remember that in 1971, gold was $35 an ounce. 40 years later, gold was $1,400 an ounce. But that's 40 years later, Robert. That is massive loss of purchasing power for the dollar. The problem grows worse as the US national debt escalates into the trillions of dollars and the US continues to print more counterfeit money. As the Federal Reserve Bank and central banks throughout the world print trillions of dollars at high speed, every printed dollar means higher taxes and more inflation. In spite of this fact, millions of people continue to believe saying that saving money is actually smart. It used to be smart when the money was actually money. The biggest market in the world is the bond market. Bond is another word for savings. There are many different types of bonds for different types of savers. There are US Treasury bonds, corporate bonds, municipal bonds, and junk bonds. For years, it was assumed that the US government bonds and government municipal bonds were safe. Then, the financial crisis of 2007 began. As many of you know, the crisis was caused by mortgage bonds, such as mortgage-backed securities, or MBS, also known as derivatives. Millions of these mortgage bonds were made up of subprime mortgages, which are loans to subprime or high-risk borrowers. You may recall that some of the borrowers had no income and no job, yet they were buying homes they could never pay for. The Wall Street bankers took these subprime loans and packaged them into bonds, magically got this subprime bond labeled as prime, and sold them to institutions, banks, governments, and individual investors. To me, this is fraud, but that is what the banking system is. Once the subprime borrower could no longer pay the interest on their mortgages, these MBS bonds began blowing up all over the world. Interestingly, it was Warren Buffett's firm, Moody's. Warren Buffett's firm, the name is called Moody's, that blessed these subprime mortgages as AAA prime debt, the highest rating for bonds. Today, many people blame the big banks such as Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan for this crisis. Yet, if anyone should be blamed for this crisis, it should be Warren Buffett. He is a smart man and he knew what he was doing. Moody's, which is Warren Buffett's firm, was blessing rotten dog meat as grade A prime beef. That is criminal. Did you all know about this? I had no clue about this. That's intense. The problem is that these subprime bonds are now causing ripple effects all over the world. Today, countries such as Ireland and Greece are in serious trouble, unable to pay their interest on their bonds. In the United States, governments and municipalities are going broke, unable to pay the interest on their bonds. In 2011, millions of individuals, many retirees, pension funds, governments, and bankers are in trouble as the bond market proves how unsafe bonds can be. On top of that, rising inflation makes bonds an even riskier investment, which is why savers who only know how to save are losers. For example, if a bond is paying 3% interest and inflation is running at 5%, the value of a 3% bond crashes, wiping out investors' value. China could be the biggest loser of all. China holds $1 trillion in US bonds. Every time the US government devalues the dollar by printing more money and issuing more bonds, the value of China's $1 trillion investment in the United States go down. If China stops buying US government bonds, the world economy will stop and crash. Millions of retirees are just like China. Retirees in need of a steady income after retirement believed that government bonds were safe. Today, as governments, big and small, go bust and inflation rises, retirees are finding out that savers who saved money in bonds are losers. Municipal bonds are IOUs issued by states, cities, and hospitals, and other public institutions. One advantage of municipal bonds is that many are tax-free income. The problem is that municipal bonds are not risk-free. Millions of municipal bond investors are now finding out that the municipal bonds they invested are in serious trouble. In the United States, more than $3 trillion is invested in municipal bonds. It is estimated that 2/3 of those bonds are now at risk because these public institutions are broke. If more money is not pumped in, the United States could implode from the center as states, cities, hospitals, and schools begin to default. Just as subprime homeowners defaulted and stopped paying on their home mortgages, the bond market is the biggest market in the world. Bigger than the stock market or the real estate market. The main reason it is the biggest is because most people are savers. Level 2 investors. Unfortunately, after 1971, when the rules of money changed, savers became the biggest losers, even if they saved money by investing in bonds. Remember that savers, bondholders, and most people who save money in a retirement plan are people who park their money investing for long term, while professional investors move their money. Professional investors invest their money in an asset, get their money back without selling the asset, and move their money on to buy more assets. That is why savers who park their money are the biggest losers. And he was really adamant about everything that was going on. Like, I can sense how he's really adamant about this, you know? Whew. Okay, so that was level 2. Don't be a bond investor because you pretty much become a loser, aka you're betting on bad debt that you won't get back, pretty much. And very interesting. Okay, level 3 is the I'm too busy level. This is the investor that is too busy to learn about investing. Many investors at this level are highly educated people who are simply too busy with their careers, families, other interests, and vacations. Hence, they prefer to remain financially naive and turn their money over to someone else to manage for them. This is the level that most 401ks, IRAs, and even my rich investors are at. They simply turn their money over to an expert and then hope and pray their expert is really an expert. Soon after the financial crisis broke in 2007, many affluent people found out that their trusted expert was not an expert at all, and even worse, could not be trusted. In a matter of months, trillions of dollars of wealth vaporized as real estate and stock markets began to crash. Panicking, these investors called their trusted advisors and begged for salvation. A few rich investors found out that their trusted advisors were extremely sophisticated con men running elaborate Ponzi schemes. A Ponzi scheme is an investment scheme where investors are paid off with new investors' money. The scheme works well as long as there are new investors adding new money to pay off the old investors. In the United States, Bernie Madoff became famous because he made of with billions of rich people's money. He was made of billions of rich people's money. Bernie, huh? There are legal Ponzi schemes and illegal Ponzi schemes. Social Security is a legal Ponzi scheme, as is the stock market. In both instances, the scheme works as long as new money flows into the scheme. If new money stops flowing in, the scheme, be it Madoff's scheme, Social Security, or Wall Street, actually collapses. The problem with the level 3 investor, the I'm too busy investor, is that the person learns nothing if they lose their money. They have no experience except a bad experience. All they can do is blame their advisor, the market, or the government. It is hard for them to learn from it's hard to learn from one's mistakes if the person does not know what mistakes were made. I like how he worded that, you know? I feel for this crowd because I feel like, yeah, there's a lot going on in the world, but I mean, again, it's your responsibility to get out and learn about it. Learn about the different opportunities that you have available to you. Okay, shall we? Level 4, I'm a professional level. This is the do-it-yourself investor in the S quadrant. Many retirees become level 4 investors once their working days are over. This investor may buy and sell a few stocks, often from a discount broker. After all, why should they pay a stockbroker's high commissions when they can just do their own research and make their own decisions? If they invest in real estate, the do-it-yourselfers will find, fix, and manage their own properties. And if the person is a gold bug, they will buy and store their own gold and silver. In most cases, the do-it-yourselfers have very little, if any, formal financial education. After all, if they can do it themselves, why should they learn anything? If they do not attend a course or two, it is often in a narrow subject area. If they do attend a course or two, it is often in a narrow subject area. For example, if they like stock trading, they will focus only on stock trading. The same is true for a small real estate investor. At the age of 9, when my rich dad began my financial education with the game of Monopoly, he wanted me to have a bigger picture of the world of investing. The following are some of the basic big picture asset classes he wanted me to spend my life learning. And then he has two columns: assets and liabilities. Under liabilities, it's 0. And then under assets, he has business, real estate, paper, and commodities. As more people realize the need to invest, millions of them will become small level 4 investors in all 4 categories. After the 2007 market crash, millions of people have become entrepreneurs starting small business. And many are investing in real estate while prices are low. Most, however, are trying their hand at the stock trading and stock picking. As the dollar declines in value, millions of people are beginning to save gold and silver instead of dollars. Obviously, those who also invest in their ongoing financial education, taking classes regularly, and hiring a coach to enhance their performance will outpace those who just do it on their own. With a sound financial advice, a few of the level 4 investors will climb to the next level, which is level number 5, an investor, the capitalist. I love that he mentions like just hire a coach. I wouldn't hire a financial advisor, but I would actually hire a coach. Like that is exactly what we've been doing for the past like 6 years of our life, is finding people that have results. We pay them and we learn. But most importantly, we do the work. So that's how you actually learn. And I think going back to what he was mentioning about the level 3 investor, it's hard to learn from one's mistakes if the person does not know what mistakes were made. That is so true. That is so true. Okay, level 5. This is the last one. This is the last level of the 5 different the 5 levels of investors. This is the last one. Level 5, the capitalist level. This is the richest people in the world. Now we're talking. The level 5 investor, a capitalist, is a business owner from the B quadrant investing in the I quadrant. As stated earlier, the level 4 investor is a do-it-yourselfers from the S quadrant investing in the I quadrant. The following are a few examples of differences between a level 4 investor and a level 5 capitalist investor. Number 1, the S quadrant investor generally uses his or her own money to invest. The B quadrant investor generally uses other people's money to invest. The difference is one of the major differences between the level 4 and the level 5 investor. One uses their own money and the other one uses other people's money. The S quadrant investor is often a solo investor. The S also stands for smartest. The B quadrant investor invests with a team. B quadrant investors do not have the smartest. They just have to have the smartest team. So one considers themselves to be the smartest one, aka just one. But the B quadrant investor is like, I'm gonna have all the smart people around me. I don't have to be the brightest. I don't have to be the smartest here, but you guys take control of this situation. Most people know that 2 minds are better than 1. Yet many S quadrant investors believe that they are the smartest people in the world. Number 3, the S quadrant investor earns less than the B quadrant investor. Number 4, the S quadrant investor often pays higher taxes than the B quadrant investor. Number 5, the S quadrant also stands for selfish. The selfish. The more selfish they are, the more money they make. Ooh. And we all know, if you're watching this right now, we all know that that's a lie. The more you give is the more that you receive. The more selfish you are, the less you make, which means you're going to pay a lot more taxes, obviously, because it's going to be taken away from you. The B quadrant investor must be generous. The more generous they are, the more money they make. It is difficult to raise money as an S quadrant investor. It is easy for a B quadrant investor to raise capital. Once a person knows how to build a business in the B quadrant, success attracts money. It becomes easy to raise money in the I quadrant if you are successful in the B quadrant. That is the big if. The ease of raising capital is one of the biggest differences between being successful in the S quadrant versus being successful in the B quadrant. Once a person is successful in the B quadrant, life is easy. The challenge is becoming successful. The problem with success in the S quadrant is that raising capital is always difficult. For example, it is easy to take a B quadrant business public via selling shares of the business on the stock market. The story of Facebook is a modern example of how easy it is to raise capital for a B quadrant business. If Facebook had remained just a small web consulting firm, it would have been extremely difficult to raise investor capital. Another example is McDonald's. If McDonald's had just remained a single hamburger store, an S quadrant operation, no one would have invested in it. Once McDonald's began expanding into the B quadrant, a franchise system, and was listed on the stock exchange, money just poured back in. The reason a business sells shares is because the more they share, the richer the entrepreneur becomes. An S quadrant business has a tough time selling shares because the business is just way too small to share. In real estate, the same is true. When I was a small real estate investor investing in single family homes, condos, and 4 to 30 unit apartment buildings, it was difficult getting loans. The moment Kim and I began investing in apartment buildings with over 100 units, banks were more than willing to lend us much more money. The reason? Well, on the 100 unit plus properties priced in the millions, banks do not finance the investor. They finance the investment. In other words, on properties with over 100 units, banks look more closely on the investment than the investor. Like that. On top of that, bankers would rather lend $10 million than $10,000, since it takes just as much time to lend $10,000 as it does to lend out $10 million. Remember, bankers love debtors because debtors make the bank rich. Once bankers are satisfied with our ability to own and manage large apartment houses profitably, banks often line up to offer us money, even during a crisis. So the question is, what do level 5 investors get their money from? The answer is they get their money from level 2 and level 3 investors who save their money in banks and pension plans, because if the money is coming from banks, that is where level 2 and level 3 are putting their money in. Makes sense. It's a cycle. It's definitely a cycle. Robert did a really, really good job in, clarifying this. And I mean, to be honest, it's really remarkable where all of this is going. And I'm very curious to know whether you are what level do you consider yourself to be? What level do you consider yourself to be? Ask yourself that question, okay? Put it in the comments, put it in the chat, share this with someone. We're gonna step into part 2 of this particular chapter in the next video. And I'm very, very curious to find out what the next chapter is going to be, because it actually goes into how to become a capitalist, and then it actually asks you, hey, specific questions to ask yourself on which level you are. So first of all, put it in the comments if you know which level you are, and then come with me on the next video so we can actually go over the few different questions to bring clarity into which level of investor you truly are. Talk to you soon and have a blessed day. See you in the next video.